Hey guys, tonight we're going to embark on a rather lengthy journey, one that starts in the dust and glory of ancient warfare, winding through monstrous encounters, divine interventions, and enough unexpected detours to make your average long-haul flight seem like a quick trip to the grocery store. We're talking about the man, the myth, the legend, Odysseus himself, and his incredibly extended commute home after the Trojan War. Imagine setting off on a vacation, telling your spouse you'll be back in a couple of weeks, and then showing up 20 years later with a wild story about Cyclops and Sirens. Yeah, you probably won't survive that conversation. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. If you're just passing through, no worries. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand on the sun-baked plains outside the formidable walls of Troy. For 10 grueling years, you, alongside countless other weary Greek warriors, have laid siege to this magnificent city. 10 years of dust, blood, and endless, monotonous skirmishes. You've seen comrades fall, heroes rise, and still, those towering, impenetrable walls refuse to yield. The air even now, as evening approaches, hums with the memory of battle, though a strange, unsettling quiet has descended. Today, however, is different. Today, something extraordinary has happened. The vast Greek encampment, once stretching for miles, is empty. The ships that once lined the shore are gone, their sails vanishing over the horizon. All that remains is a colossal, mysterious offering. A truly enormous wooden horse, standing silently on the battlefield like a bewildered giant toy left behind by some colossal child. This, is your brainchild, your most audacious, most cunning plan yet. You, Odysseus, king of Ithaca, renowned for your intellect even more than your spear, conceived this elaborate deception. You remember the endless discussions in the war council, the skeptical glances, the outright ridicule from some of the more battle-hardened, less imaginative generals. A wooden horse? They scoffed, adjusting their bronze helmets. Are you mad, Odysseus? We've tried battering rams, we've tried ladders, we've even tried yelling really loudly. A giant wooden horse is your grand finale. But you, ever patient, ever persuasive, laid out your vision. A masterpiece of psychological warfare, a Trojan horse, quite literally. This isn't just a horse. It's a symbolic end, a desperate gamble that hinges entirely on Trojan pride and human gullibility. And as you gaze at it now, bathed in the fading light, you can almost hear the gears turning in the minds of the Trojans, even within their fortified city. They will see it, question it, and ultimately they will want it. You imagine the scene unfolding within Troy's walls. The jubilation, the cautious curiosity, then the overwhelming triumph. For them, it must feel like the dawn after an endless nightmare. Their hated enemies, the Achaeans, have seemingly given up. They've sailed away, leaving behind this magnificent, baffling gift. You envision them arguing, of course, because even in victory, humans love a good debate. Some, like the wise priest Laocoon, will warn them, famously crying out, "Beware of Greeks bearing gifts." You even arranged for a captured Greek, a man named Sinon, to tell a fabricated tale, weaving a narrative so convincing it would make even the most seasoned politician blush. He would claim the horse was an offering to Athena, too large to be brought inside, designed to protect the Greeks on their voyage home. He would even suggest that if the Trojans did manage to bring it in, it would grant Troy divine protection, making it invulnerable. Oh, the human desire for a perceived advantage, a touch of divine favor. It's truly a wonderful thing, isn't it? More powerful than any battering ram. You recall the meticulous planning that went into its construction. Days and nights of secret work, the hushed whispers of master carpenters, the creak of timber being shaped, the rustle of straw for padding. Inside that hollow belly, a select group of your finest warriors, including yourself, now silently waits. The air inside is probably stale, the wood might splinter, and the whole thing could probably do with a good air freshener, if such a thing existed in ancient Greece. Historians still argue whether the Trojan horse was a literal wooden horse or merely a symbolic representation of a siege engine or a clever trick involving a secret passage. But for you, it was very much a literal, very uncomfortable, very claustrophobic wooden horse. You can almost feel the rhythmic sway as the Trojans, in their sheer delight and hubris, dismantled parts of their own walls to drag this gift into their city. What a delightful irony, you chuckle to yourself. They breached their own defenses, doing your dirty work for you, all because they believed they had one. As darkness falls completely, you imagine the sounds filtering through the thick wooden walls of your hiding place. The distant echoes of celebration, the clinking of wine cups, the triumphant shouts fading into the joyous revelry. They feast, they sing, they perhaps even boast about their great victory. They feel secure finally, too secure. And you, inside this wooden behemoth, wait. Every muscle tensed, every nerve alert. You consider the countless battles, the valiant Achilles, the wise Nestor, the mighty Ajax. All their strength, all their courage, all their years of fighting, ultimately brought to bear by a piece of cunning carpentry and a well-told lie. It's almost a shame, in a way, to end such a grand war with such an unconventional maneuver. Where's the glory in hiding in a horse? But glory, you remind yourself, is for poets. Victory is for kings. The night deepens, and the sounds of revelry slowly die down, replaced by the hushed breathing of a city finally at peace, dreaming of a future without war. This is the moment. You picture Sinon, your brave informant, quietly signaling from within the city. You imagine the creak as the hatch is unlatched, the slow descent down the rope, the first tentative steps onto the cobblestones of Troy, now eerily silent. Your fellow warriors, chosen for their stealth and bravery, follow. You know exactly what needs to be done. Open the city gates, light the signal fires, summon the fleet. This silent invasion, unfolding under the watchful eye of the stars, will be swift and decisive. The once impenetrable city, confident in its false victory, is now completely vulnerable. It's like leaving your front door wide open and a giant welcome. Invaders sign on your lawn, truly baffling. The flames will soon lick at the sky, a beacon for your returning ships, and the cries of battle will once again fill the night, though this time, they will be the cries of surprise and defeat from within the city's heart. Troy, the mighty city, will fall not by brute force, but by the subtle, irresistible power of human psychology. It's a mainstream historical fact that the Trojan War ended with the Trojan horse, a testament to the power of trickery over sheer might. A quirky tidbit? Some accounts suggest the horse might have had wheels made of solid bronze, which would have made for a truly impressive clanking sound as it was pulled through the city, probably giving everyone a headache. Historians still argue whether the Trojan horse was a real wooden structure or a metaphorical tale of a clever siege tactic, perhaps involving a ram shaped like a horse's head or a secret tunnel. But for tonight, you simply acknowledge that your grand plan, the culmination of 10 years of fruitless siege, is finally coming to fruition. You stand on the precipice of victory, and soon you will be free to set sail for home. Little do you know, your journey has only just begun. The cacophony of burning Troy slowly fades behind you, replaced by the rhythmic slap of waves against the hull of your ship. After years of siege, the air now tastes of salt and freedom. You are Odysseus, and against all odds you have won. You've outsmarted an entire city, brought down the seemingly invincible Troy, and now, finally, you set sail for home, for Ithaca. The relief is palpable among your men, a heady mix of exhaustion and euphoria. You picture Penelope, your faithful wife, and Telemachus, your young son, waiting. The journey ahead seems simple. A straight shot across the Aegean, a triumphant return. What could possibly go wrong? Well, as you're about to discover, quite a lot. Even the most straightforward journey can have unexpected detours, especially when you're a hero of myth. Your first stop, or rather, your crew's impulsive first stop, brings you to Ismarus, the land of the Sicanies. You can almost feel the joy of the plunderers. They see a city, less fortified than Troy, seemingly ripe for the picking. Your men, perhaps still high on the adrenaline of their recent victory, or simply eager for quick spoils after a decade of fighting, decide to raid the city. They quickly overwhelm the Ciconian defenders, seizing treasures and livestock. You, ever the strategist, advise caution. Let's grab what we need and go. You urge, sensing the danger of lingering. But your men, bless their weary, impulsive hearts, decide to celebrate. They slaughter sheep and oxen, feasting on the shores, drinking wine they've plundered. Their bellies full, their minds dull. It's a classic case of celebrating too early, like spiking the football on the 1-yard line. You know how that usually ends. You watch, frustrated, as the sun dips below the horizon, and still, they feast. While your men are indulging, the Ciconies are not idly mourning their losses. Oh no. They are rallying, calling for aid from their neighbors, skilled warriors from the interior. You can almost hear the furious whispers spreading across the land, the hurried preparations, the sharpening of spears. And then, at dawn, they strike. You wake to the sound of furious battle cries, a stark contrast to the drunken snores of your men. The Ciconian army, larger and better organized, descends upon your now slumbering crew. You fight valiantly, of course, shouting commands, trying to rouse your dazed comrades. It's a chaotic, brutal skirmish, a harsh reminder that even after a great victory, complacency can be deadly. You lose men, 6 from each of your 12 ships, a devastating blow so early in your journey. You manage to drag the survivors back to the ships, casting off just as the sun rises fully, fleeing with heavy hearts and lighter numbers. It's a sober start to your homeward-bound adventure, a grim lesson learned at a terrible cost. As you sail away from the bloody shores of Ismarus, a divine storm, sent by Zeus himself, descends upon your fleet. The sky turns an angry gray, the winds howl, tearing at your sails, and monstrous waves toss your ships like toys. For 2 days and 2 nights, you are battered by the tempest, clinging to the mast, your stomach churning, the salt spray stinging your eyes. It's like being trapped in a particularly aggressive washing machine, with no cycle selection. When the storm finally abates, you find yourselves utterly lost, blown far off course, adrift on an unfamiliar sea. This is the unpredictable nature of ancient sailing. No GPS, no weather forecasts, just the mercy of the gods and the strength of your timber. You long for a quiet harbor, a calm shore, anything but the endless, heaving expanse of the ocean. After 9 days of relentless drifting, your weary fleet finally spots land. It's an island, bathed in a perpetual, hazy sunlight, with a gentle breeze that carries a faint, sweet scent. This is the land of the lotus eaters. You send out a small party, 3 men, to scout ahead and gather information. You watch them go, their figures disappearing into the shimmering heat haze, a sense of cautious optimism fluttering in your chest. Surely, after the horrors of the Ciconies and the fury of the storm, something pleasant awaits. You just want a nice, quiet rest stop, perhaps a gift shop, maybe some local delicacies. Your scout party returns, but something is profoundly wrong. Their eyes are glazed over, their faces serene, almost blissful, yet utterly vacant. They walk with a strange, languid grace, and when you ask them about the island, they speak only of the lotus flower, a sweet, intoxicating fruit that grows abundantly there. Taste it, Odysseus. They murmur, their voices soft, almost a lullaby. It washes away all sorrow, all desire. There is only the lotus. You realize, with a sudden jolt of alarm, that they no longer remember their names, their families, or even their purpose. They have consumed the fruit of the lotus, and it has robbed them of their memory, their ambition, their very will to return home. It's like the world's most effective and dangerous chill pill. You immediately understand the dire threat. This isn't a monster with teeth and claws. It's a monster of oblivion, a temptation to simply forget. This is a more insidious danger than any spear-wielding Ciconian. If your entire crew were to taste this fruit, you would be stranded forever, lost in a haze of blissful ignorance, never to see Ithaca again. The thought sends a shiver down your spine, colder than any ocean spray. You remember the tales of travelers lost to such temptations, succumbing to a gentle, sweet surrender that ends all journeys. Historians still argue whether the lotus flower was a purely mythical plant or a symbolic reference to actual narcotics known in the ancient world, like opium or some type of psychedelic, but its effect in the story is undeniably potent. Absolute forgetfulness of one's homeland. You act swiftly, decisively. You grab your lost men, dragging them back to the ships, their expressions still soft and vacant, murmuring about the sweetness of the lotus. They resist gently, without malice, simply wanting to drift back to their blissful haze. It's harder than fighting a giant, in a way, because there's no anger to push against, just a profound indifference. You tie them securely beneath the rowing benches, ignoring their quiet pleas. Then you order the rest of your men, who mercifully have not tasted the fruit, to embark immediately. No one touches the lotus! You roar, your voice sharp with urgency. You have them row with all their might, pulling away from the dangerous shores, leaving the sweet, intoxicating scent of the lotus island behind you. The air you breathe once more is clean, sharp, and full of purpose, even if your purpose now includes keeping several of your crew members physically restrained. It's hardly the glorious return you envisioned after Troy, is it? One moment you're a conquering hero, the next you're running a floating detox program. A quirky tidbit. Some scholars suggest the Lotus Eater's island might have been inspired by real-world islands in the Mediterranean or North Africa where certain psychoactive plants grew, but Homer's depiction imbues it with a unique, almost ethereal menace. As your ships cut through the waves, you reflect on this bizarre encounter. The greatest dangers aren't always roaring beasts or clashing armies. Sometimes the most perilous enemy is forgetfulness, the gentle erosion of purpose, the sweet temptation to simply stop trying. You look at your bound men, their eyes still holding a faint, distant smile, and you feel a renewed resolve. You will not forget Ithaca. You will not forget Penelope and Telemachus. You will pull your ships through storms, past tempting shores, and through whatever else the gods decide to throw at you. Your journey home has already proven far more treacherous than the decade-long war you just endured. And this, you realize, is just the beginning of your grand, unforeseen Odyssey. The sea stretches before you, vast and unpredictable, and somewhere out there, even stranger adventures await. You can only hope your oarsmen have had enough time to rest their arms, because they'll need them. You've left the land of sweet forgetfulness behind, the lotus's gentle lure replaced by the bracing sea air, and the distant, fading memory of bound, blissful crewmates. Your ships continue their unpredictable journey, tossed by currents and the whims of the gods, now sailing into truly uncharted waters. The sun beats down, relentless, on the endless blue, and you, Odysseus, search the horizon for any sign of land that doesn't promise oblivion. And then you see it, another island. This one looks different, not lush and inviting like the Lotus Eater's paradise, but craggy, desolate, with towering, rocky peaks and an air of wild, untamed solitude. It doesn't look like a vacation spot, let's put it that way. No billboards for beachfront property here. As you draw closer, you notice something peculiar. No towns, no cultivated fields, just wild goats grazing freely and smoke curling from a distant cave. This isn't the land of civilized folk. This is something primordial. Curious and ever cautious after your last 2 detours, you decide to take only your own ship and 12 of your most trusted men to explore, leaving the rest of your fleet anchored safely offshore. You equip yourselves with a large goatskin of potent, dark wine, a gift from Marin, a priest of Apollo, so strong that it took 20 parts water to 1 part wine to dilute it. You have a feeling this isn't for a picnic. You carry food too, just in case, but that wine, you have a hunch it might be the real meal ticket. You approach the cave, a gaping maw in the side of the mountain. The entrance is vast, large enough to swallow a small house. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of sheep, goats, and something else, something heavy and unsettling. You see pens filled with lambs and kids, baskets overflowing with cheese, and huge milking pails. The place is clearly inhabited by a shepherd, but a shepherd of unusually massive proportions. Your men, ever practical, suggests taking some cheese and lambs and making a quick exit. But you, ever the curious and perhaps a touch arrogant hero, insist on waiting. You want to see the master of this strange abode, to receive his hospitality, to perhaps even secure a gift, as was customary for travelers in ancient times. Sometimes your hospitality expectations get you into trouble, don't they? As dusk descends, a truly monstrous figure appears at the cave entrance. He is enormous, a towering brute of a creature, far larger than any man you have ever seen. And then you notice it, the single monstrous eye glaring from the center of his forehead. This is a Cyclops, Polyphemus to be precise. He drives his massive flock into the cave, and with a grunt, rolls a colossal stone, a slab so huge that 20 pairs of oxen couldn't budge it, sealing the entrance. You and your men are trapped, instantly realizing the dire predicament you are in. It's like locking yourself in a pantry, only the pantry contains a giant, one-eyed, man-eating, cheese-loving maniac. Polyphemus lights a fire, and his single eye sweeps across the cave, spotting you and your terrified men huddled in the shadows. He roars, a sound that vibrates through your very bones, demanding to know who you are. You, putting on your bravest face, introduce yourselves as unfortunate travelers, shipwrecked and seeking hospitality, reminding him of Zeus's laws regarding guests. But Polyphemus, a rude and uncivilized brute, merely sneers. Fools, he growls. Cyclopes care nothing for Zeus or his laws. And then, with terrifying swiftness, he snatches 2 of your men, smashing their heads against the rock floor and devouring them, bones and all, like a particularly crunchy snack. The sound of their screams, quickly silenced, echoes in the cave, chilling you to the marrow. You watch in horror, helpless, knowing that you and your remaining men are next on his menu. Despair washes over you, thick and cold. But despair, for a mind like yours, is often quickly followed by calculation. You realize that killing him outright won't work. You'd still be trapped by that colossal stone. You need a plan, cunning plan. As Polyphemus settles down for his monstrous sleep, snoring loudly enough to shake the cave, you devise it. You spot a huge olive wood club, as tall as a ship's mast, which Polyphemus uses as a walking stick. You cut off a section, sharpen one end to a wicked point, and then harden it in the fire. It's crude, but effective. This is your weapon, a giant makeshift spear. When morning comes, Polyphemus devours 2 more of your men, then rolls back the stone to let his flock out to pasture, sealing it again when they're gone. The waiting is agony. That evening, when he returns and devours 2 more of your men, you step forward, holding out your goatskin of potent wine. Great Cyclops, you say, trying to keep your voice steady. You have just eaten human flesh. Now cleanse your palate with this noble drink. He takes the skin, drinks deeply, and immediately demands more. He loves it. He's never tasted anything like it. He's like a college freshman at their first party. As he gets progressively drunker, his single eye grows heavy. He finally asks your name. This is your moment. You smile, a predatory, victorious smile. My name, you announce, is Nobody. Nobody is my mother and my father, and nobody is what my friends call me. Polyphemus, his speech slurred, promises you a great gift. Nobody, I will eat you last. And with a final, booming burp, he passes out, collapsing onto the cave floor. Now is the time for action. You and your remaining men, your hearts pounding, lift the heated, sharpened stake. With a collective grunt, you drive it into Polyphemus's single, monstrous eye, twisting it with all your might. The Cyclops screams, a blood-curdling roar that makes the very cave tremble. He tears the stake from his eye, blinded, flailing wildly in agony. The sound he makes is truly horrifying, a mixture of rage and excruciating pain. You quickly scramble away into the dark corners of the cave, your ears ringing. His blinded roars echo, "Nobody is hurting me. Nobody is attacking me." Other Cyclopes from nearby caves hear his cries and shout back, "If nobody is hurting you, then why do you cry, Polyphemus? It must be an act of the gods, then. They assume he's just being melodramatic. What a brilliant, simple trick. A quirky tidbit. The story of a hero outsmarting a giant by naming himself Nobody or a similar pun is found in various folktales across cultures, suggesting a universal appeal to wordplay as a weapon. Morning approaches, and with it, your chance for escape. Polyphemus, blinded but not entirely incapacitated, rolls back the stone, standing at the entrance to feel each sheep as it passes out, ensuring no human escapes. But you, cunning Odysseus, have anticipated this. You instruct your men to cling to the underside of the biggest rams, hiding beneath their thick woolly bellies. You yourself cling to the largest ram, burying your fingers deep in its fleece, feeling the warmth and scent of its wool. As each ram lumbers past the blind Cyclops, he runs his hand over its back, feeling only wool, completely oblivious to the terrified human clutching beneath. You emerge into the glorious sunlight, the fresh air a blessing after the stale, blood-scented cave. It's a moment of pure, unadulterated triumph, one of the most famous escapes in all of mythology. Mainstream historical fact. The blinding of Polyphemus and the nobody trick is a cornerstone of the Odyssey, showcasing Odysseus's defining trait of cunning. Scholars continue to debate if the story of the Cyclops reflects ancient encounters with isolated, pre-civilized peoples, or perhaps is an allegorical tale about the dangers of brute force without intellect. As you sail away, your men cheer, and in a moment of pure, understandable, but utterly foolish hubris, you shout back to the Cyclops, revealing your true name. It was Odysseus, son of Laertes, king of Ithaca, who blinded you. Oh, Odysseus, you just had to rub it in, didn't you? That boast, as you'll soon discover, will have truly monumental consequences, inviting the wrath of a very powerful deity. But for now, you just feel the wind in your hair and the immense relief of being free. The wind whips through your hair, carrying the triumphant shouts of your men as you sail away from the Cyclops Island. The monstrous roars of Polyphemus, now a blind, raging terror, echo fainter and fainter behind you. You've outsmarted him, escaped his clutches, and in a moment of pure, unadulterated hubris, because even the cleverest heroes have their weaknesses, you revealed your true name. It was Odysseus, son of Laertes, king of Ithaca, who blinded you. You bellowed across the waves, a defiant taunt. That boast, that single moment of arrogance, sealed your fate in ways you couldn't yet comprehend. For Polyphemus, in his agony, raised his monstrous hand to the heavens and prayed to his father, Poseidon, the mighty god of the sea, to ensure you would never reach home. You can almost feel the chill of that prayer, a cold finger tracing your spine, even now as the sun warms your face. For a time, however, the seas are kind. You sail onward, putting more and more distance between yourselves and that desolate, terrifying island. After some further travels, your ships finally approach a peculiar sight. It's an island, but not just any island. This one floats. Yes, it literally drifts on the waves, a landmass surrounded by a bronze wall, with sheer, smooth cliffs rising from the water. This is Aeolia, the home of Aeolus, the keeper of the winds. Imagine sailing up to that, completely disoriented. After all you've been through, it's like pulling up to a drive-through window that's floating in the middle of the ocean. A bit unexpected. As you draw closer, you see a magnificent palace on the island, bustling with life and revelry. Aeolus, you soon learn, is a favored friend of the gods, blessed with eternal feast days. He lives there with his wife and his 12 children, 6 sons and 6 daughters, who, in a quirky tidbit of ancient family planning, are all married to each other. Yes, you heard that right. 6 sets of siblings married together, living in blissful, wind-controlled harmony. It's quite the family reunion, a permanent one. You can almost picture the awkward holiday dinners. You and your men are welcomed with open arms, a truly blessed respite after the horrors of the Cyclops and the near oblivion of the Lotus Eaters. For a full month, you enjoy Aeolus's lavish hospitality. You feast on rich meats and drink fine wine, your bellies full, your bodies rested. You tell your host the entire story of your journey, From the fall of Troy to your narrow escape from Polyphemus, Aeolus listens, captivated by your tales of valor and cunning, perhaps even a bit amused by your repeated misfortunes. He recognizes your piety and your relentless desire to return home. When it's finally time to depart, Aeolus proves himself a most generous benefactor. As the master of the winds, he has a truly unique gift for you. He takes all the blustery, unfavorable winds, the ones that cause storms and push ships off course, and binds them securely within a mighty oxhide bag. He seals it with a shimmering silver cord, making it impossible for anyone but you to open it. Then, he releases a gentle, steady westerly wind, a fair breeze that will carry your ships directly back to Ithaca. He warns you gravely never to open the bag. This is your ticket home, a one-way express delivery, courtesy of the god of winds. Mainstream historical fact: the gift of the bag of winds from Aeolus is one of the most famous incidents in Odysseus's journey, illustrating both divine aid and human folly. You take the precious bag, your heart swelling with hope. This is it. This time, nothing can stop you. You personally tie the silver-corded bag to the mast of your ship, securing it with multiple knots, ensuring its safety. You stand at the helm, guiding your fleet, feeling the steady push of the westerly wind on your sails. For 9 glorious days and nights, you sail without pause, without a single misstep. You don't even let yourself sleep for more than a few moments, keeping a vigilant eye on the bag and the direction of your ships. You are so close, so incredibly, tantalizingly close. You can almost taste the salt spray of Ithaca's shores. On the 10th morning, you see it, the familiar coastline of your homeland, the smoke rising from the hearths of Ithaca. You can make out individual trees, the contours of the land you've yearned for 20 long years. You imagine Penelope, Telemachus. The joy is overwhelming, a physical ache in your chest. You are so close, so utterly, blissfully close, you can practically hear the welcoming shouts of your people. Exhausted from your constant vigil, knowing that home is now within reach, you finally allow yourself to succumb to sleep, just for a moment, just for a brief, well-earned rest. You deserve it, after all. You've been through so much. But your men, your men, they are not heroes of cunning or kings of patience. They are tired, superstitious, and deeply, deeply jealous. For 9 days, they have watched you, their captain, guarding that tightly bound oxhide bag. They whisper among themselves, "What treasure is he hiding in there?" They grumble, their eyes narrowing. "Gold? Silver? Jewels? Why does he keep it secret from us? His loyal crew who have endured so much." They convinced themselves that the bag must be full of glittering spoils that Aeolus had given you personally, keeping it from them. Their jealousy festered, growing stronger with every mile you sailed closer to home. It's the ancient version of workplace gossip turning into a full-blown mutiny over perceived bonuses. While you are finally enjoying a well-deserved nap, their greed gets the better of them. They creep stealthily to the mast, their fingers fumbling with the silver cord. "Let's just peek," they probably whispered. "Just a little look." They untie the cord, and the moment the knot loosens, a terrifying roar erupts from the bag. All the wild, contrary winds that Aeolus had painstakingly collected burst forth in a single, furious gale. The sudden gust tears at the sails, snaps the mast, and whips the sea into a frenzy of towering waves. Your ships, caught unawares, are spun around, tossed about like driftwood, and violently blown backward, away from the shores of Ithaca, away from home. You awaken with a jolt, thrown from your sleep by the sheer violence of the storm. You see the chaos, the terror in your men's eyes, the ships being hurtled back out to sea, and you immediately understand. The bag. They open the bag. The realization is a bitter taste in your mouth, a mix of fury and despair. You contemplate throwing yourself overboard, ending the torment, but your resolve, though shaken, holds. You must endure. You must try again. Scholars continue to debate if the bag of winds could be an ancient metaphor for understanding weather patterns or a device used to store different types of sails. However, its effect is dramatically literal. A sudden, catastrophic reversal of fortune. You and your men are blown far, far away from Ithaca, back to the one place you absolutely did not want to see again. After days of being battered by the unleashed furies of the wind, you eventually find yourselves, to your utter dismay, back at the floating, bronze-walled island of Aeolia. You row ashore, exhausted, defeated, dragging your battered ships onto the beach, hoping for another chance, another act of kindness from the Wind King. But Aeolus, when you recount your tale, looks at you with grim eyes. He instantly understands. "Begone!" he roars, his voice like a gale. "It is clear that you are cursed by the gods, Odysseus. No one so hated by the immortals should receive my aid. Your journey is doomed." He rejects you, refusing any further help, seeing your return as a clear sign of divine disfavor, especially from Poseidon, whose wrath you so carelessly invited. A quirky tidbit about ancient sailing. Without knowledge of the specific wind patterns and without a functional compass, being blown off course by such a storm would indeed make it nearly impossible to find your way back to a specific small island without divine intervention. This moment is a stark reminder that even a king's ingenuity cannot overcome fate, or rather, divine displeasure. You leave Aeolia, this time with no gifts, no guiding winds, only the vast, indifferent ocean stretching before you, and the knowledge that you are truly, deeply, and divinely out of luck. The words of Aeolus, the keeper of the winds, still ring in your ears. "Begone! You are cursed by the gods." The sound of his fury, the sting of his rejection, is a new kind of cold, colder even than the deep sea. You are sailing once more, but this time, there is no fair breeze, no gentle guide. You and your men, battered and disheartened, must row relentlessly, stroke after weary stroke, across the vast, indifferent ocean. The hope that had soared so high when you saw the smoke of Ithaca has now plummeted, replaced by a grim determination. You feel the weight of Poseidon's curse, a heavy hand on your fate, pushing you further and further from home. This is not just bad luck. This is divine displeasure, and it's a far more formidable foe than any giant. After days of relentless rowing, with muscles aching and spirits flagging, a new land finally appears on the horizon. It looks different. This is Telepolis, the land of the Laestrygonians. You cautiously guide your ships into a strange, almost perfectly circular harbor, surrounded by towering, sheer cliffs that meet precisely at the entrance, forming a narrow, bottleneck channel. It's a natural fjord, deep and calm inside, but eerily quiet. All your 11 remaining ships squeeze through the narrow mouth and anchor close together within the sheltered cove. You, ever the careful strategist, hold your own ship back, mooring it just outside the entrance, a cautious whisper of unease prickling at your neck. This perfect harbor feels too perfect. It's like finding a perfectly calm, empty parking lot right in the middle of a busy city. You just know something's off. You send out 3 of your men to scout, hoping to find friendly inhabitants or at least some fresh water. They follow a track to a spring where a young woman, a chieftain's daughter, is drawing water. She points them towards her father's house. Your men, hopeful, follow her, but what they find chills them to the bone. They enter a house of giants, for the chieftain, Antiphates, is a monstrous, colossal brute. Before they can even react, he snatches one of your men and devours him instantly, right before their horrified eyes. The remaining 2 flee for their lives, sprinting back towards the harbor, their screams echoing in the still air. You watch in horror from your ship as the scene unfolds. The entire city, if you can call it that, comes alive. Gigantic figures, the Laestrygonians, pour out from every crevice in the cliffs. They are enormous, powerful, and utterly merciless. They stand on the cliff tops above your fleet, and with terrifying ease, begin to hurl massive boulders down onto your ships trapped in the harbor below. You hear the horrifying crunch of timber, the screams of your men as their vessels are smashed like toys, splintering into matchsticks. It's like a game of giant bowling, and your ships are the pins. There's no escape, no maneuverability within that narrow cove. Your fleet is being obliterated, ship by ship, man by man, beneath a hail of colossal rocks. You act without hesitation. With a desperate cry, you cut the mooring ropes of your own ship, screaming at your men to row with all their might. You are trapped outside the harbor's entrance, a precarious but vital position. Your men bend to the oars, pulling with the strength born of terror, churning the water as you flee the murderous giants. You look back to see your other 10 ships sinking, their crews either crushed by boulders or being dragged from the water by the gargantuan Laestrygonians, to be eaten like fish from a net. It's a massacre, a complete and utter wipeout. You are the sole survivor of this naval ambush, escaping with only your own ship and the mere handful of men still aboard. Mainstream historical fact. The Laestrygonian encounter results in the near-total destruction of Odysseus's fleet, a massive blow to his company. A quirky tidbit. Some ancient Greek geographers tried to place the Laestrygonians in Sicily or other parts of Italy, suggesting that the myths might have been inspired by exaggerated tales of indigenous peoples or volcanic landscapes. Historians still argue whether the Laestrygonians represent the dangers of uncivilized, hostile lands, or simply the extreme forces of nature personified. Again, despair threatens to consume you. From 12 ships, you are now down to 1. From hundreds of men, you have only 45. The sea stretches before you, silent and vast, reflecting your grim prospects. You sail on, filled with a deep sense of loss, the chilling memory of giant boulders smashing timber and the cries of your men echoing in your mind. After another period of weary sailing, a new land appears. This one is different again. Not desolate, but shrouded in mist, with smoke rising from a dense forest. This is Aea, the island of the sorceress Circe. You anchor your single ship quietly, cautiously, feeling the lingering weariness from the Laestrygonian horror. The island seems peaceful, almost too peaceful. You see deer, wild boar, and bears roaming freely, but strangely, they are docile, almost tame. They don't run from you. They simply gaze with unnerving placidity. You climb to a vantage point, scanning the horizon, and spot a plume of smoke rising from what appears to be a stone house in a clearing. It's an ominous sign, yet also a promise of human habitation. You decide to send out another scouting party, led by your trusted, though often cautious, kinsman Eurylochus and 22 men. You remain behind, the image of your shattered fleet fresh in your mind. Eurylochus and his men follow the smoke, finding a beautiful, well-built stone palace in a clearing. Outside, tame wolves and lions, surprisingly docile, greet them, wagging their tails like house pets. Inside, they hear a beautiful voice singing, weaving threads on a loom. This is Circe, a powerful sorceress, daughter of Helios, the sun god. Most of your men, drawn by the enchanting voice and the promise of hospitality, eagerly enter. But Eurylochus, ever the suspicious one, holds back, his instincts screaming caution. And good thing he did. Circe greets your men warmly, offering them a potion, a delicious, potent brew mixed with cheese, barley, and honey, but secretly laced with a powerful drug. Your men, unsuspecting and weary, gulp it down. The moment they finish, Circe strikes them with her wand, and instantly, they are transformed. Not killed, not injured, but changed into grunting, snorting pigs, though their minds remain human. They are driven into pigsties, weeping in their new, grotesque forms. It's a truly peculiar fate, to be turned into livestock with your human consciousness trapped inside. Imagine thinking, oh, this mud feels lovely, but also, I really wish I hadn't let that lady give me that suspicious-looking smoothie. Eurylochus, witnessing this horror from outside, rushes back to the ship, distraught, barely able to speak. He recounts the terrifying transformation, his voice choked with sobs. Your heart sinks again. Another group of men lost. Another monstrous encounter. But this time, it's different. You can't leave them. You grab your sword and bow, determined to rescue your men, even if it means facing a sorceress yourself. Eurylochus pleads with you not to go, urging you to flee while you still can, reminding you that your one ship is all that's left. But your loyalty to your men, stubborn and unwavering, compels you forward. As you stride through the forest, a young man appears before you. It is Hermes, the messenger god, gleaming with youthful vitality. He praises your courage but warns you of Circe's magic. He gives you a small magical herb called moly, describing it as having a black root and a white flower, a specific, otherworldly antidote. This will protect you from her potion, Hermes explains. When she strikes you with her wand, draw your sword and rush at her as if to kill her. She will be terrified and offer you her bed. Do not refuse, but make her swear a solemn oath by the gods not to harm you further before you lie with her. It's an oddly specific set of instructions, isn't it? But you trust the gods. This is exactly the kind of divine intervention you needed. You enter Circe's palace, and she offers you the drugged potion. You drink it, feeling no effect thanks to the moly. When she strikes you with her wand, confidently expecting you to turn into a pig, you draw your sword and lunge. Circe screams, falling to her knees, terrified. "Who are you?" she cries. "What man can resist my magic?" She realizes you must be Odysseus, the man for whom Hermes had warned her to watch out. She begs for mercy, offering you her bed, as Hermes foretold. You demand her oath, making her swear by the great gods that she will plot no more mischief against you or your men. Once the oath is sworn, you accept her hospitality. Circe, now subdued, leads you to the pigsties. With a touch of her wand, your men are transformed back into their human forms, even younger and more handsome than before. The reunion is tearful, joyful, and slightly awkward, as you imagine returning to human form after a stint as a pig. You then bring the rest of your remaining crew from the ship to the palace. For an entire year, you and your men live luxuriously with Circe, feasting, drinking, and forgetting the passage of time. It's a delightful, opulent prison, a pleasant reprieve from the horrors of your journey. But even in luxury, a part of you, deep down, knows this is not home. The mainstream historical fact is that Odysseus spent a year with Circe, who transformed his men into swine. A quirky tidbit: the moly plant is often interpreted by scholars as a symbol of intelligence or inner resilience, rather than a literal magical herb, allowing Odysseus to resist temptation. Historians still argue whether Circe represents the alluring dangers of foreign cultures, or perhaps an ancient understanding of potent herbal medicines and their effects. As the year draws to a close, a growing restlessness stirs within you. The call of Ithaca, muted by luxury, begins to grow louder, reminding you of the long journey still ahead. A year has passed on Circe's idyllic island. A full year. You've feasted on sumptuous meals, sipped fine wine, and your men, transformed back to their human forms, have reveled in the luxury. It's been a welcome respite, a gentle pause in your otherwise harrowing journey. But even the finest silk sheets and the most delicious ambrosia cannot fully stifle the persistent, nagging call of home. That little voice in the back of your mind, whispering of Ithaca, of Penelope, of Telemachus, grows louder with each passing day. Your men, too, begin to feel the restlessness. They approach you, their faces etched with a familiar longing. "Odysseus," they murmur, "it's time. It's time to go home. We cannot linger here forever." You agree. It's an undeniable truth. This prolonged comfort, though pleasant, is a distraction from your ultimate purpose. You approach Circe, the powerful sorceress who has been your gracious host. You explain your yearning, your desperate need to return to your family and your kingdom. Circe listens, her eyes wise and knowing. She understands the pull of home, even for a mortal. She agrees to help, but her words come with a startling, chilling condition. You cannot simply sail directly home. You must first undertake a journey to a place no living man willingly goes, the underworld. Yes, the land of the dead. Your heart sinks into your stomach, a cold knot of dread. This is not just a detour. This is a descent. The purpose? You must consult the blind prophet Tiresias, the greatest seer of the dead, for he alone can guide you on the treacherous path back to Ithaca. He holds the key to your safe return. You relay Circe's instructions to your men, and a collective moan of despair sweeps through them. They are brave warriors, but the prospect of visiting the realm of Hades, to walk among the shades of the departed, strikes a primal fear into their hearts. It's like being told your next vacation destination is a haunted graveyard. Nobody signed up for that. Circe, ever practical, provides you with detailed instructions for this grim pilgrimage. She tells you precisely where to sail, to the furthest reaches of the ocean, to the land of the Cimmerians, shrouded in eternal mist and gloom, where the sun never truly shines. This is where the entrance to Hades' realm lies. She explains the ritual you must perform, how to dig a trench, what libations to pour, and which sacrifices to make to draw forth the shades of the dead. It's a bit like following a very macabre recipe. You load your ship with provisions, but also with two specific animals, a black ram and a black ewe, destined for a far more somber purpose than providing wool or milk. You set sail from Aa, the luxurious island receding into the mist. The air grows heavier, colder, the light dimmer with each passing mile. You sail past familiar constellations, then into unknown skies, guided only by Circe's chilling directions. The waves seem to sigh with an ancient weariness. After a long, unsettling voyage, you arrive at the edge of the world, at the land of the Cimmerians. True to Circe's word, it is a land perpetually cloaked in fog and darkness, where the sun's rays never penetrate. The very air feels thick with unseen presences, a suffocating silence broken only by the lapping of the waves. It's the kind of place where even your shadows seem to have shadows. You guide your ship to a desolate beach, where two rivers, the Pyriphlegethon and the Cocytus, flow into the Acheron, a desolate confluence. This is the fabled entrance to the underworld. You gather your men, their faces pale with fear, and begin the ritual as Circe instructed. You dig a trench roughly a cubit long and a cubit wide. You then pour libations for the dead. First, milk mixed with honey, then sweet wine, then pure water, and finally you sprinkle white barley meal over it all. It's a very specific concoction, designed to entice the spirits. Mainstream historical fact: the ritual involving a trench and libations is a common feature in ancient Greek descriptions of summoning the dead. As you perform the ritual, you sacrifice the black ewe and the black ram, slitting their throats and letting their dark blood flow into the trench. The rich, warm scent of the blood hangs heavy in the cold, damp air. And then they come, like swarms of flies, drawn by the offering. The shades of the dead begin to rise from the depths. They are silent, ghostly figures, murmuring and moaning, their forms indistinct, their voices like whispers on the wind. Old men, young brides, brave warriors, innocent maidens, all flocking to the trench, eager for a taste of the living world. The sheer number of them is overwhelming, a chilling, spectral crowd. Your men, terrified, huddle together, their teeth chattering. It's like being at a really, really quiet and very crowded zombie convention. You stand firm, sword drawn, holding back the surging mass of shades from the blood. Circe had warned you that only by drinking the blood could the shades gain substance and speak clearly. You must keep them away until Tiresias arrives. The first shade to approach you, one you recognize with a jolt of sadness, is Elpenor, one of your own men. He was the one who, in a moment of drunken clumsiness back on Circe's island, fell off her roof and broke his neck, dying unmourned and unburied. He begs you to return to Aa and give his body a proper burial, so his soul can finally find rest. It's a poignant, unexpected encounter, a reminder of the human cost of your prolonged journey. A quirky tidbit: the Greeks believed that an unburied body prevented the soul from crossing into Hades, leaving it to wander endlessly, which is why Elpenor's plea is so urgent. Next, a shade you never expected to see approaches, your own mother, Anticlea. You hadn't known she had died during your long absence. Her sudden appearance, a ghostly echo of the woman who raised you, is a profound shock, a wave of grief washing over you. You weep, struggling to compose yourself, wanting to embrace her, but knowing she is merely a shade, intangible and fleeting. It's like seeing a beloved old photograph come to life, only to realize it's still just an image. You force yourself to hold her back, prioritizing your mission, knowing you must speak with Tiresias first. It's a testament to your discipline, even in the face of such raw, personal sorrow. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, the blind prophet Tiresias approaches the trench. He is an old man, wise even in death, his face calm and authoritative. He drinks deeply from the fresh blood, and his form becomes clearer, his voice stronger, imbued with the power to speak truths. He gazes at you, not with eyes, but with the wisdom of the ages. He confirms that Poseidon is indeed enraged due to the blinding of his son, Polyphemus, and will continue to make your journey difficult. He then lays out your future, a roadmap of the dangers still to come. He warns you specifically about the cattle of Helios, the sun god, on the island of Thrinacia. He tells you that if you or your men harm them, your ship and crew will be destroyed, and you alone will return home, a broken man, to face new troubles. He speaks of your return to Ithaca, the arrogant suitors devouring your estate and harassing your wife. He tells you how you will overcome them, reclaiming your home. And, most importantly, he tells you that even after you have restored order, you must undertake one final journey, carrying Enor inland until you reach a place where people do not know the sea, mistaking your oar for a winnowing fan. There, you must plant the oar and make offerings to Poseidon, finally appeasing him. Only then will you find a gentle, peaceful death in your old age. It's a lot to take in, isn't it? A long list of future chores, even after the current ordeal. Scholars continue to debate if the descent to the underworld in the Odyssey represents a symbolic psychological journey, a hero's confrontation with his own mortality and past, rather than a literal geographical trip. You absorb every word, every dire prophecy, every glimmer of hope. Your path home is fraught with peril, but at least now you have a guide, a map from the very realm of the dead. You have faced the unliving, endured profound grief, and now, armed with this grim knowledge, you must sail back into the land of the living, ready for the next challenge. You emerge from the chilling depths of the underworld, the spectral voices of the dead fading behind you, replaced by the crisp, refreshing air of the living world. The prophecies of Tiresias echo in your mind. The wrath of Poseidon, the dangers of Helios's cattle, the suitors back home, and the final, strange journey inland. It's a lot to process, a heavy burden of knowledge, but also a guiding light through the perpetual gloom of your voyage. You have faced death, spoken with ghosts, and now, armed with grim foresight, you guide your ship back towards Circe's island. You have an urgent task before you embark on the next perilous leg of your journey, fulfilling Elpenor's plea for a proper burial. Upon reaching Aea, you find Elpenor's body where it fell. You and your men perform the funeral rites, building a pyre, mourning his untimely demise, and giving his spirit the peace it craved. It's a somber, necessary pause, a reminder of the human cost of your quest. Once this duty is done, you return to Circe's palace. She greets you, already aware of your visit to the underworld and Tiresias's prophecies. She is not surprised. Sorceresses, you realize, often have their own ways of knowing things. She offers you one last meal, one last night of comfort, and then she provides you with crucial, life-saving advice for the path ahead. She warns you first of the Sirens. Their island is not far, shrouded in mist and mystery, its shores littered with the bones of unfortunate sailors who succumbed to their irresistible allure. These are not just any mythical creatures. They are beings whose song possesses a terrifying power. They sing of all things, past, present, and future, luring men with the promise of ultimate knowledge and understanding. Is the original clickbait, really promising to reveal all your deepest desires and questions answered, just for a little listen. But the price, as Circe gravely explains, is your very life. No man who steers his ship within the sound of the Sirens' voices ever escapes, she warns, for they charm him with their singing, and he lingers there until he perishes. Circe advises you on a cunning strategy. You, she tells you, must plug the ears of all your comrades with softened beeswax. Let no one hear their song. But if you, Odysseus, wish to listen, if your heart so desires, then let your men bind you hand and foot to the mast of the ship. Tie you so tightly that no matter how much you beg or plead, they must not untie you until you are safely past the island. It's a dangerous proposition, a gamble with your very sanity, but your curiosity, your thirst for knowledge, is a powerful force. Plus, you've always been one for breaking rules, especially when it comes to experiencing something unique. You've faced man-eating giants and transforming sorceresses. Surely a little song can't be that bad? You leave Circe's island once more, the warmth of her hospitality lingering in your memory. As you approach the Sirens' rocky isle, a strange, unnatural calm settles over the sea. The wind dies, the waves become unnervingly still. It's almost as if the very elements are holding their breath, waiting. You quickly follow Circe's instructions. You take a large cake of beeswax, softened by the sun and your kneading fingers, and meticulously, personally, plug the ears of every single one of your men. You ensure they are utterly deaf to any sound from the outside world. They look at you with bewildered eyes, their expressions a mix of confusion and trust, probably wondering what on earth you're up to this time. It's a quirky tidbit that this simple, ancient material, beeswax, played such a crucial role in navigating one of the most famous mythical dangers. Then comes your turn. You instruct your men, now unable to hear you, to tie you firmly to the mast. You demonstrate with gestures, pointing to the ropes, motioning for them to bind you tightly, even to add more ropes. They obey, securing you with strong cables around your chest and arms, lashing you so securely that escape is impossible. You nod, giving them a final thumbs up, then signal them to take up their oars and row past the island. You are the only one on board who will hear what is coming. As your ship draws closer, the air itself seems to hum. And then you hear it. A melody, sweet beyond anything you have ever imagined, begins to drift across the water. It is not just music. It is a song woven from your deepest desires, your secret longings, your hidden regrets. They sing of your triumphs at Troy, of the glory you achieved, but also of the knowledge you crave, the wisdom of the ages, the answers to every question you've ever had. They promise to reveal secrets, to tell you everything that ever happened on the bounteous earth. Come ashore, glorious Odysseus. They sing, their voices intertwining like liquid gold. Rest here and hear our song. No one ever sails past without listening. The song is utterly irresistible. Your mind reels under its power, your heart aching with a desperate urge to plunge into the water, to swim towards them, to learn everything, to succumb to that blissful oblivion. You strain against the ropes, your muscles screaming, your body convulsing with the sheer, agonizing desire to break free. You try to shout commands to your men, to tell them to untie you, to steer the ship towards the island, but only muffled grunts escape your plugged mouth. You make frantic gestures, nodding your head vigorously, pointing wildly towards the Sirens, begging them to release you. You are like a moth drawn to the most beautiful, deadly flame imaginable. You probably look a bit ridiculous, writhing like a captured squid, but in your mind, it's a battle for your very soul. Your men, deaf to your pleas and blind to your frantic struggles, only interpret your wild gestures as a sign that you want them to tie you even tighter. They dutifully add more ropes, binding you so securely that not even a finger can twitch. You are a prisoner on your own ship, saved by your own foresight and your men's inability to hear your desperate, suicidal cries. The ship slowly, inexorably, passes the island. You see the bones of past sailors, bleached white on the shore, a grim testament to the Siren's true nature. It's a sobering sight, a sudden burst of clarity through the intoxicating haze of the song. Mainstream historical fact. The Sirens were often depicted as birdwomen or mermaids who lured sailors to their death with their song. Scholars continue to debate if the Sirens represent the dangers of sensual pleasure, intellectual curiosity leading to ruin, or perhaps even dangerous navigational hazards disguised as alluring sounds. As the ship pulls further away, the song slowly, agonizingly, begins to fade. The spell breaks. The overwhelming urge to leap overboard lessens. replaced by a lingering echo of impossible beauty and a profound sense of relief. Your men, seeing your struggles subside, approach and carefully remove the beeswax from their ears. Then, they untie you from the mast, chafing your skin where the ropes bit deep. You are free, alive, and utterly exhausted, your body aching, your mind still buzzing with the ghostly remnants of the Siren's deadly melody. You realize the true power of temptation, how easily even the strongest will can be broken by something so subtly, beautifully dangerous. And you know that you have just escaped one of the most insidious threats of your entire journey, thanks to a bit of beeswax and some really strong knots. But the seas ahead hold more challenges, more choices between impossible evils. The last, fading echoes of the Siren's mesmerizing song still hum in your ears, a sweet, unsettling memory that serves as a stark reminder of how close you came to utter destruction. Your skin still tingles from the rope burns, a physical testament to your cunning plan and the obedience of your deafened crew. You are alive and your ship is intact, but the challenges, as Circe so helpfully outlined, are far from over. No sooner have you cleared the Siren's Isle than your thoughts turn to the next, even more terrifying obstacle, the choice between two equally dire perils. It's like being offered a choice between a giant blender and a very hungry, very multi-headed monster. Pick your poison, literally. Circe, with her chilling foresight, had laid out your options with brutal clarity. Ahead lay a narrow strait, a treacherous passage where two monstrous forces guarded the path. On one side, lurked Scylla, the six-headed monster, and on the other, the terrifying whirlpool, Charybdis. There is no easy way around them. You must pass through their gauntlet. You remember Circe's precise descriptions, etched into your mind like dire warnings. Scylla, she explained, dwells in a dark, cavernous den high up in a cliff face. She has 12 shapeless feet, a truly grotesque sight, and 6 long serpentine necks, each ending in a hideous head with 3 rows of sharp, fearsome teeth. She waits, hidden within her murky cave, snatching sailors from passing ships. It's like something out of a deep-sea nightmare, but with way more heads. Her voice, Circe warned, is like the yelping of a newborn puppy, but that deceptive sound hides the true horror of her nature. Any ship that passes too close will lose 6 men, 1 to each of her ravenous heads. A guaranteed gruesome toll. Across from Scylla, on a lower, craggier cliff, lurks Charybdis. This is not a creature in the traditional sense, but a terrifying natural phenomenon, a colossal whirlpool that sucks down and spews up the black, murky water of the sea 3 times a day. If you get too close to Charybdis, Circe warned, your entire ship, along with every man on board, will be utterly consumed, dragged down into the abyssal depths, never to resurface. It's the ultimate maritime vacuum cleaner, only instead of dust bunnies, it sucks down entire ships. The choice is grim yet simple: lose 6 men to Scylla, or risk losing every single man and ship to Charybdis. Circe had advised you, steer closer to Scylla. It is better to mourn 6 men than to lose them all. You, Odysseus, the man of many stratagems, are forced to make an agonizing, cold calculation. You choose the lesser of 2 evils. You will sacrifice 6 men to Scylla to save the rest. It's the kind of executive decision that keeps you awake for years afterward, even in your most comfortable bed. Despite Circe's clear warning not to arm yourself and fight Scylla, for she is immortal and invulnerable, you cannot help but prepare. You don your armor, grasp 2 long spears, and stand at the prow of your ship, scanning the cliff face, ready to strike, ready to defend. You tell yourself you can perhaps wound her, frighten her, make her drop her prey. It's a flicker of defiance, a king's instinct to protect his men, even when the odds are insurmountably stacked against him. A quirky tidbit: the common depiction of Scylla often includes fishtails or tentacles, but Homer's original description focuses more on her numerous dog-like heads and monstrous body, making her more akin to a hybrid land-sea creature. As your ship draws nearer to the strait, the terrifying sounds begin to fill the air. On one side, the guttural roar and sucking sound of Charybdis as she swallows the sea, a colossal gulping sound that makes your stomach clench. On the other, the high-pitched, yelping cries of Scylla, a sound strangely like puppies whimpering, but imbued with a chilling menace that promises death. Your men, terrified, begin to lose their composure. Their eyes are fixed, utterly mesmerized, on the horrifying maw of Charybdis, the whirlpool, convinced that their only hope is to avoid that devastating suction. They row frantically, their gazes glued to the swirling waters. And that, you realize, is exactly what you need them to do. By focusing their terror on Charybdis, they are distracted from the true, immediate threat. It's a cruel irony, a terrifying misdirection, but necessary. As the ship is pulled further into the narrow passage, the roar of Charybdis becomes deafening, the spray from her colossal exhalations drenching your ship. Your men strain at their oars, their faces pale, their muscles screaming. You are caught between two unthinkable fates. Mainstream historical fact. The strait between Scylla and Charybdis has long been associated with the Strait of Messina, a narrow body of water between Sicily and the Italian mainland, known for its strong currents and whirlpools, suggesting a real-world geographical basis for the myth. Suddenly, without warning, Scylla strikes. From her dark, unseen cave, her 6 serpentine heads lunge out, swift as lightning. You hear the horrifying sounds of men screaming, abruptly cut short. Your heart leaps into your throat as you see them, 6 of your finest, strongest oarsmen, snatched from their benches, dangling in midair for a fleeting, agonizing second. They thrash, they cry out your name, their hands reaching desperately for anything, anyone. But it's too late. Scylla pulls them quickly into her cave, and you hear the sickening sounds of bone crunching, the wet tearing of flesh. You can do nothing. Your spears are useless against her speed and her position high in the cliff. You are utterly helpless, forced to watch as your loyal companions are devoured before your very eyes. A horrifying spectacle you will never, ever forget. It's a moment of pure, unadulterated terror and impotence, arguably one of the most painful experiences of your entire journey. It's like watching your favorite snack disappear into a vacuum cleaner, but the snack is your friend. You urge your men on, screaming at them to row with all their might, to escape this nightmare strait. The remaining crew, white-faced and trembling, pull at their oars as if their very lives depend on it, which they do. The ship lurches forward, driven by desperate energy, finally clearing the treacherous passage. The roar of Charybdis fades, the horrific yelping of Scylla recedes, and you are once again on the open sea, battered, grief-stricken, but alive. You have made it through, but at a terrible, agonizing cost. The silence on your ship is heavy, broken only by the rhythmic splash of oars and the occasional choked sob. 6 more men gone. Your crew is dwindling, each loss a fresh wound on your weary spirit. You gaze back at the terrifying cliffs, the scene of such sudden, brutal death. You survived, yes, but the memory of those 6 men, dangling helplessly, their final cries echoing in your mind, will haunt you. It is a grim reminder that not all battles can be won by cunning or strength alone. Sometimes, you can only choose how you will lose. Scholars continue to debate if the monsters Scylla and Charybdis are truly separate entities, or perhaps 2 terrifying aspects of the same treacherous natural phenomena, symbolizing the impossible choices faced by ancient mariners. A mainstream historical fact is that Odysseus was warned by Circe that he would lose men no matter what choice he made. You are now truly on the final leg of your journey before reaching the fateful island Tiresias warned you about, the island of the sun god. The next challenge, you realize, might be even more insidious, for it involves not monstrous attacks, but a test of discipline and hunger. The lingering horror of Scylla's ambush, the screams of your 6 lost men, still haunt your weary mind as you sail onward. Your ship, your sole remaining vessel, is now populated by a gravely diminished crew, each face etched with grief and exhaustion. You are constantly reminded of the prophecies of Tiresias and the warnings of Circe, particularly the one about the sacred cattle of Helios, the sun god. This, is the most crucial, the most dangerous test of discipline you will face. It's not about monsters or storms anymore. It's about hunger, temptation, and the human capacity for self-destruction. After leaving the perils of Scylla and Charybdis behind, your ship approaches yet another island, this one named Thrinacia. The air here feels strangely vibrant, almost hallowed. You can see herds of cattle, impossibly large and perfectly white, grazing peacefully in lush pastures. Flocks of fat sheep, black as night, wander alongside them. This is the island of Helios, the sun god, and these are his sacred, immortal herds and flocks. Their numbers, a quirky tidbit, are said to be exactly 7 herds of 50 cows and 7 flocks of 50 sheep, always maintaining their perfect count, never reproducing, never diminishing. They are cared for by 2 divine nymphs, Phaethousa and Lampede, the daughters of Helios himself. You steer your ship away from the island, intending to bypass it entirely. You remember Tiresias's stark warning. If you harm the cattle, destruction will come upon your ship and men, and though you yourself may escape, you will come home late in sore distress, having lost all your companions. Circe had reiterated this warning with equal gravity. You know this is a test of obedience and restraint. You tell your men, in the clearest, most severe terms, "Comrades, listen to me. Though we are hungry, though we are tired, we must not touch these cattle. This is the herd of the sun god, sacred and immortal. If we harm them, our doom is sealed." You emphasize the terrible consequences, the absolute destruction that awaits them if they succumb to temptation. Your men, surprisingly, agree. They are tired, yes, but also terrified by the recent losses and your stern warnings. They understand the sacredness of divine herds. They promise to obey. You decide to bypass the island and continue your journey. But then, as if by divine intervention, or perhaps divine malice, a sudden, fierce gale descends upon your ship. The winds howl, the waves crash, and it becomes clear that sailing onward is impossible. You are forced to turn back, seeking refuge in a sheltered cove on Thrinacia. It's like getting ready to leave a party, but then a sudden blizzard forces you to stay inside with dwindling snacks and increasingly irritable company. The storm rages for an entire month. Day after day, the fierce southerly winds trap you on the island, making any attempt to sail away suicidal. Your provisions, already low, dwindle rapidly. You ration what little food remains, but hunger, slow and insidious, begins to gnaw at your men. They resort to fishing, to snaring birds, anything to stave off the gnawing emptiness in their stomachs. But the sea is barren, the birds scarce, and true hunger, the kind that blurs judgment and dulls reason, begins to set in. You watch your men, their faces growing gaunt, their eyes hollow with desperation. Mainstream historical fact: the prolonged storm trapping them on Helios's island is crucial, as it forces the crew to choose between starving and breaking their oath. One day, desperate to find some sustenance, you decide to venture inland alone, hoping to find a hidden spring or some edible plants. You leave your men with yet another strict warning, reiterating the sacredness of the cattle. But exhaustion, that relentless enemy, finally claims you. You walk deep into the island, and somewhere, beneath the shelter of a thicket, you fall into a deep, heavy sleep. A sleep so profound, it's almost as if the gods themselves orchestrated it, to allow the inevitable to unfold. While you are sleeping, your men, led by the ever-cautious but now desperate Eurylochus, succumb to their hunger. Eurylochus addresses them, his voice low and persuasive, twisting your earlier words. "Comrades," he argues, "you have endured so much, you have faced monsters and storms, but to die of starvation, a lingering, ignoble death, after all we have been through? No. Let us take the finest of Helios's cattle, sacrifice them to the gods, promising rich offerings when we return to Ithaca. Better to die by divine wrath, swiftly, than by the slow agony of hunger." His words, born of desperation, resonate deeply with the starving crew. It's the classic better to ask for forgiveness than permission argument, but with divine consequences. They agree. With a grim resolve, they choose the fattest, finest cattle from Helios's herd. They drag them down to the beach, despite the protests of their own consciences, and perform a makeshift sacrifice. They have no barley meal for the ritual, so they use oak leaves. They have no wine for libations, so they use water. They slaughter the cattle, flay the hides, and prepare the meat for roasting. The smell of roasting beef, forbidden and delicious, wafts across the island. A truly quirky tidbit. As the meat roasted on the spits, it began to low like living cattle, and the hides, flayed from the slaughtered beasts, began to crawl. It's a terrifying, supernatural sign of the gods' immediate displeasure, a gruesome precursor of what's to come, like your dinner yelling at you. You wake with a start, the smell of roasting meat assaulting your nostrils. Your heart leaps into your throat. You know instantly what has happened. You rush back to the beach, your stomach churning, your mind reeling. You see the half-eaten carcasses, the men feasting, their faces smeared with fat and guilt. Despair, deeper than any you've felt before, washes over you. You scream at them, but it's too late. The deed is done. You call upon Zeus and the other gods, pleading for mercy, but you know deep down that there will be none. Your men have sealed their own doom. Helios, the sun god, full of righteous fury, appears before Zeus and the other gods, threatening to plunge the world into eternal darkness if justice is not served. Zeus, acknowledging the grave offense, promises retribution. I will strike their ship with a thunderbolt, he declares, and splinter it in the midst of the wine-dark sea. It's a divine death sentence, pronounced from the highest seat in Olympus. Scholars continue to debate if the episode of Helios's cattle represents an ancient dietary taboo, a warning against disrespecting sacred animals, or a symbolic representation of the dangers of impious behavior and breaking oaths. For 6 more days, your men feast on the sacred cattle, oblivious to the divine wrath brewing above them. On the 7th day, the storm finally breaks, and you set sail, feeling the ominous quiet that precedes a storm. You are still out at sea when Zeus strikes. A furious tempest descends, worse than any you've ever faced. Lightning bolts crackle across the sky. A searing blast strikes your ship, shattering its mast, ripping the rudder from its stern, and splintering the hull. The ship breaks apart, sending your men flailing into the churning water. They try to cling to pieces of wreckage, but one by one, they are swallowed by the waves, their cries quickly silenced. You watch, helpless, as your entire remaining crew, the last of your companions from Troy, are swallowed by the vengeful sea. You are the sole survivor. You cling desperately to a piece of the mast, tied to the keel, tossed by the raging storm. It's a lonely, terrifying ordeal, a watery hell that punishes you for the actions of your men, for your brief, exhausted slumber. You are swept back towards the very strait of Scylla and Charybdis, pulled by the currents. You manage to avoid Charybdis's sucking maw only by clinging to a fig tree that grows above her whirlpool, waiting until she vomits up your raft again. You then paddle frantically, using your hands until you are finally free. You are utterly alone, adrift, the sole remnant of your mighty fleet, just as Tiresias and Circe had foretold. Your journey, far from over, has taken another devastating turn, leaving you marooned and utterly desolate. The final, terrifying roar of the storm fades into a vast, empty silence. You, Odysseus, cling desperately to a splintered piece of your ship's mast, the keel of your once mighty vessel, the last remnant of your entire fleet. Your men, all gone, swallowed by the vengeful sea, punished for their fatal hunger. You are utterly alone, adrift on the vast, indifferent ocean, a single, exhausted mortal against the immense wrath of Poseidon and the will of Zeus. You drift for days, exposed to the elements, the sun beating down mercilessly by day, the stars indifferent witnesses by night. You are nothing but flotsam, a speck of humanity in an endless, watery void. At one terrifying point, the currents, as if mocking your plight, drag you back towards the dreaded strait of Scylla and Charybdis. You see the monstrous whirlpool once more, its gaping maw sucking down the sea. With what little strength remains, you cling to the branches of the great fig tree that grows above Charybdis's swirling vortex, hanging there, battered and bruised, until she spews up your little raft again. It's an agonizing wait, a horrifying replay of a past nightmare. When your makeshift raft finally resurfaces, you let go, falling back onto your flimsy salvation, and paddle frantically with your hands, using every last ounce of your will to escape that deadly passage for a second time. You are truly, truly out of luck, and almost out of energy. For 17 long, grueling days you drift. 17 days of sun, salt, and starvation, surviving on nothing but sheer stubbornness and the occasional prayer. You are pushed by winds, guided by currents you can neither see nor understand, a mere plaything of the gods and the elements. And then, finally, on the 18th day you spot land. It's an island, far off in the distance, rising like a green jewel from the shimmering blue. You summon a last, desperate surge of strength, paddling towards it, praying it isn't another nightmare. You wash ashore, utterly spent, on the shores of Ogygia, the remote, beautiful island of the nymph Calypso. This is no desolate rock, but a paradise. Lush forests of alder, poplar, and fragrant cypress trees surround a cavern, Calypso's home. Grapevines heavy with purple clusters entwine themselves around the cave's mouth, and 4 springs bubble up clear, cool water, flowing in different directions through meadows of parsley and violets. The air is filled with the scent of cedar and burning thyme, the sound of birdsong. It's a perfect, untouched sanctuary, a place of impossible beauty, almost too beautiful to be real. It's the kind of place you see on postcards, not where you end up after being shipwrecked. Calypso herself is a goddess of breathtaking beauty, with long, braided hair, and a voice like liquid melody. She is one of the Pleiades, a daughter of Atlas, an immortal nymph of immense power, and she lives here in splendid, yet profound, isolation. When she finds you, a lone, broken mortal washed up on her pristine shores, she is captivated. You are, after all, Odysseus, renowned hero, master strategist, a man who has dared to face gods and monsters. And you are here, helpless, utterly at her mercy. She takes you into her cave, cares for your wounds, feeds you nectar and ambrosia, the food of the gods, restoring your strength. She immediately falls deeply, irrevocably in love with you. And why wouldn't she? You're the ultimate catch. Handsome, cunning, brave, and utterly alone. She sees in you a companion, a lover, a king to share her eternal, isolated paradise. She offers you immortality, the gift of eternal youth and boundless life, if you agree to stay with her, to become her husband, her eternal consort on this blissful island. At first, in your utter despair, having lost everything, you might have been tempted to cease being mortal, to escape the pain of your losses, the struggle of your journey, the burden of kingship, to simply surrender to this beautiful, benevolent captivity. After all, what did you have left? Your entire crew was gone. Your ship was destroyed. Your home felt impossibly distant. It's like being offered a golden parachute after your company imploded. You might just take it. Mainstream historical fact. Odysseus spends 7 years with Calypso, during which she offers him immortality. But even paradise, when it's not your own, can become a prison. Even endless banquets and the loving embrace of a goddess cannot erase the deep-seated yearning for home, for family, for your mortal life. For 7 long years, you live in luxury. You feast with Calypso, sharing nectar and ambrosia, listening to her beautiful voice. But every single day, when the sun reaches its peak, you walk down to the rocky shore. You sit there, gazing out at the endless, wine-dark sea, your eyes filling with tears. You weep silently for your lost men, for your distant home, for your faithful wife Penelope, and for your son Telemachus. You miss the mundane, the mortal, the very things that make life messy and real. It's the ultimate golden handcuff scenario. Everything you could ever want, except the one thing you truly desire. A quirky tidbit. Calypso's name itself means she who conceals, highlighting her role in hiding Odysseus from the world for so long. Meanwhile, back on Olympus, the gods are finally paying attention. Athena, ever your champion, never stops pleading your case to Zeus. She reminds him of your suffering, your long absence, the insolence of the suitors devouring your estate. Zeus, swayed by her appeals and perhaps tired of hearing about it, finally decides it's time. He sends Hermes, his swift messenger, to Ogygia with a direct order for Calypso: release Odysseus. Hermes arrives, shimmering and golden, at Calypso's cave. He finds her there, just as you often do, weaving at her loom and singing beautifully. He delivers Zeus's stern command. Calypso's reaction is a mixture of fury and despair. She rages against the double standards of the male gods, who are allowed to have mortal lovers, but goddesses are forbidden. You gods are hard-hearted, jealous beyond all other creatures, she complains. You begrudge a goddess her mortal lover. It's a very ancient, very relatable lament about divine hypocrisy. But she knows she cannot defy Zeus. So, reluctantly, Calypso comes to you by the shore, where you sit weeping. She tells you that you are free to go, that the gods have commanded it. You are understandably suspicious. You've faced too many tricks and traps to simply believe this sudden turn of good fortune. You demand she swear a solemn oath that she means you no harm, that this is not another deception. She swears it, by the unbending waters of the Styx, the most sacred of oaths. Calypso then helps you. She provides you with a bronze axe and tools, and guides you to a grove of tall, dry timbers suitable for shipbuilding. For 4 days you labor, cutting trees, shaping planks, building a sturdy raft, not a ship, but a seaworthy vessel large and strong. On the 5th day, she brings you provisions: 2 skins of wine, a large skin of water, a sack of barley meal, and a supply of cooked meat. She clothes you in fresh garments and sends you off with a final, lingering look. Scholars continue to debate if Calypso's long captivity of Odysseus represents the dangers of prolonged ease and comfort, an emotional trap that keeps a hero from his true destiny, or merely a plot device to show divine intervention. You push off from the shores of Ogygia, alone once more on the vast sea, but this time with a sturdy raft beneath you and a clear destination in mind. You steer by the stars, guided by the instructions Calypso gave you on navigating the constellations. You feel a strange mix of emotions: relief at your freedom, sadness at leaving Calypso, and a renewed, fierce hope for Ithaca. But the sea, as you well know by now, is a fickle mistress, and Poseidon, whose son you blinded, has not forgotten you. Your journey home, even now, is far from over. You push off from the shores of Ogygia, leaving the 7 years of gilded captivity behind. The vast, empty ocean stretches before you. But this time, you are not adrift on wreckage, but atop a sturdy raft, built with your own hands and Calypso's reluctant aid. You gaze at the constellations, guided by the wisdom of the lonely goddess, feeling a potent mix of freedom and apprehension. Ithaca feels impossibly far, but the journey has begun anew. You paddle for 17 days and nights, your muscles aching, your spirit buoyed by the renewed hope of home. But the gods, especially one particular god, have long memories and even longer grudges. As you sail, Poseidon, the mighty earthshaker, returns from a visit to the Ethiopians, a distant, pious people. He spots you, a lone figure on a tiny raft, sailing across his vast domain. The sight of you, the man who blinded his son, Polyphemus, rekindles his ancient, simmering rage. He unleashes his fury. The sky darkens, the winds howl, and the sea erupts into a violent tempest. Monstrous waves, taller than mountains, crash over your flimsy raft, battering it relentlessly. It's like being caught in the world's angriest washing machine, but with lightning and giant squid. Your raft, despite its sturdy construction, is no match for a god's wrath. The timbers groan, splinter, and then with a final, heartbreaking crunch, your last vessel shatters beneath you. You are once again plunged into the churning, icy depths, clinging to a single plank, tossed about like a toy. The salt stings your eyes, the waves pound against your body, trying to drag you down into the cold embrace of the deep. You are convinced this is the end, the final act of Poseidon's vengeance. But even in the darkest moment, divine intervention can emerge from the most unexpected places. A goddess, Ino, also known as Leucothea, a mortal queen transformed into a sea nymph, takes pity on you. She rises from the waves, looking like a graceful sea bird, and offers you aid. "Poor man," she calls. "Cast off your clothes, abandon your raft, and take this immortal veil. Tie it about your chest. It will protect you from harm and keep you afloat. But when you reach land, cast it back into the sea, never looking back." She hands you a shimmering, ethereal veil, a piece of divine fabric that offers not just buoyancy, but profound protection. A quirky tidbit: Ino's transformation into Leucothea is itself a tragic tale from earlier Greek mythology, suggesting that even minor deities can harbor compassion. You hesitate, ever cautious, wary of another god's trick. But desperation outweighs suspicion. You grasp the veil, strip off your heavy, waterlogged clothes, and tie the magical fabric around your chest. You push away from the last vestiges of your broken raft and plunge into the open sea, swimming for your life. You swim for 2 days and 2 nights, propelled by the miraculous veil, battling exhaustion, hallucinating from the salt and sun. It's an agonizing, endless ordeal, a testament to your unyielding will to survive. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, you see land. But it's not an inviting, sandy beach. It's a rugged, rocky coastline, with crashing waves and jagged cliffs offering no safe landing. You are battered against the rocks, scraped and bruised, but the veil keeps you from being dashed to pieces. You pray to the river god, whose mouth you glimpse, begging him to grant you a safe landing, to offer some respite from the merciless sea. The river god takes pity, and a calm eddy pulls you into the river mouth, a silent, miraculous rescue. Mainstream historical fact: Odysseus's arduous swim to the land of the Phaeacians, after Poseidon's final storm, is a key moment demonstrating his endurance. You crawl onto the sandy bank, utterly spent, naked, covered in brine and exhaustion. Your body aches, every muscle screams in protest, but you are alive. You immediately untie Ino's veil and cast it back into the river, honoring your promise. You then stumble inland, seeking shelter from the biting night air and the dew. You find a thicket of olive trees, 2 growing together, their branches so intertwined that neither wind nor sun nor rain can penetrate. You burrow into the leaves, cover yourself with a pile of dry leaves, and fall into the deepest, most exhausted sleep of your life. You are a king, a hero, reduced to a shivering, naked castaway, but you are a castaway with an unbreakable will. Meanwhile, on the island of Scylla, home of the Phaeacians, a benevolent and seafaring people, life is proceeding quite differently. Princess Nausicaa, the beautiful daughter of King Alcinous and Queen Arete, is having a dream. Athena, disguised as her friend, urges her to go to the river to wash her family's clothes in preparation for her upcoming marriage. It's a classic divine nudge, a setup for your eventual discovery. The next morning, Nausicaa, radiant and youthful, goes to the river with her maidens. They wash the clothes, spread them out to dry on the rocks, and then, while they wait, they play a game of ball, laughing and shouting, their joyous cries echoing across the peaceful landscape. Their innocent mirth, the sudden burst of sound, awakens you from your deep slumber. You stir, disoriented, unsure if you are still dreaming or if more monsters await. You emerge from the thicket, a terrifying sight. Naked, encrusted with salt and dirt, your hair matted, your eyes bloodshot. The maidens, seeing this wild, desperate figure, shriek and scatter, fleeing in terror. All but one, Nausicaa, remarkably stands firm. Athena has imbued her with courage and composure. You realize you cannot approach her directly, not in your current state. You choose your words carefully, eloquently. You speak from a distance, appealing to her compassion, her sense of hospitality. You praise her beauty, comparing her to a goddess, humbly requesting only a piece of cloth to cover yourself and guidance to the nearest town. It's the ultimate beggar's plea, delivered with kingly dignity. You've definitely got a knack for impressing powerful women, even when you look like you've been dragged through a hedge backward. Nausicaa, gentle and wise beyond her years, recognizes your plight. She is touched by your eloquent plea and your evident suffering. She scolds her maidens for their fear and orders them to help you. They bring you clean clothes, rich with olive oil for washing, and food and drink. You step into the river, wash away the brine and the grime, and dress yourself. Suddenly, transformed, you appear taller, nobler, almost godlike, or another little touch from Athena, making you presentable. Nausicaa instructs you on how to proceed. She tells you to follow her chariot part of the way to the city, but then to walk on alone, entering the palace only after she has arrived. This is to avoid any scandal or gossip among her people, ensuring her reputation remains untarnished. Your success in getting help from the Phaeacians, she explains, rests entirely on how you approach her mother, Queen Arete, who holds the true power and wisdom in the household. Clasp her knees and plead your case to her, Nausicaa advises, for if she smiles upon you, you will surely reach home. Scholars continue to debate if the Phaeacians, with their magical ships and idyllic society, were meant to represent a true utopian civilization or a symbolic bridge between the mortal and divine worlds. Mainstream historical fact. Nausicaa's discovery of Odysseus and her subsequent aid are pivotal, leading directly to his recounting of his entire journey. You nod, absorbing her every word, understanding that your fate now rests in the hands of this young princess and her powerful mother. You follow Nausicaa's instructions, walking alone towards the magnificent Phaeacian city, a place of bustling harbors and splendid architecture. You enter the grand palace of King Alcinous and Queen Arete, a sight of incredible opulence, with walls of bronze, doors of gold, and halls adorned with fine tapestries. You find the king and queen feasting with their nobles. You walk directly to Queen Arete, as Nausicaa advised, and clasp her knees, making your humble plea for hospitality and safe passage home. You do not reveal your identity, only your desperate need. Queen Arete, known for her wisdom and compassion, is the first to respond. She asks where you came from, noticing the clothes you wear are those she herself made. You cleverly deflect, recounting only your journey from Calypso's island and your encounter with Nausicaa, carefully omitting her direct involvement to protect her reputation. King Alcinous, impressed by your dignity and eloquence even in your desperate state, offers you a seat of honor. He even, somewhat boldly, suggests that if you are a good man, you might marry Nausicaa and become his son-in-law, a surprising offer given your unknown status. You politely decline, focused solely on home. The Phaeacians, known for their exceptional hospitality and their magically swift ships that require no helmsman, are eager to help. They provide you with a feast, comfortable lodgings, and a promise of safe passage home. They invite you to a grand assembly and games the next day, and then a final banquet where you will recount your tales. This is your chance. This is your moment to finally tell your story, to unravel the long, winding thread of your 10-year journey from Troy. You are finally among people who can truly help you, who will listen, and who possess the means to deliver you home. The stage is set for the epic recounting of your most incredible adventures. You finish your incredible tale, recounting every harrowing escape, every monstrous encounter, every heart-wrenching loss to the Phaeacian court. King Alcinous and Queen Arete, along with all their nobles, sit in stunned silence, captivated by the epic sweep of your 20-year Odyssey. Your voice, though weary, has painted vivid pictures of Cyclops' caves, Sirens' songs, and the swirling depths of Charybdis. They are deeply moved by your suffering and profoundly impressed by your resilience. Their promise to deliver you home, given so readily at the start, now carries an even greater weight of admiration and respect. It's safe to say you've earned a 5-star review for storytelling. The next morning, true to their word, the Phaeacians prepare one of their magical, self-steering ships. These are no ordinary vessels. They are sentient, requiring no helmsman or oarsman, knowing instinctively where to go, cloaked in mist and moving with astonishing speed, swifter than a hawk in flight. You board the ship, carrying the many precious gifts the Phaeacians have bestowed upon you: gold, bronze, fine garments, a king's ransom to replace what was lost. You are overcome with exhaustion, the sheer relief of being so close to home, and fall into a deep, profound sleep, the kind of sleep that can only come after 2 decades of constant danger and sleepless nights. The Phaeacian sailors, with their effortless grace, navigate the sea under the cover of night. The journey is incredibly swift, spanning hundreds of miles in mere hours. Before dawn, the ship glides silently into the familiar harbor of Phorcys, an ancient port in Ithaca, known for its 2 jutting headlands that protect its inner waters. The sailors gently lift you, still deeply asleep, from the ship and carry you ashore, placing you softly on the sand. They carefully arrange your numerous gifts beside you, piling them beneath the root of a sacred olive tree, lest someone, in your vulnerability, discover and steal them. They then turn their ship and depart, leaving you alone, utterly unconscious, on the soil of your long-lost kingdom. But Poseidon, the Earthshaker, is not yet finished. He observes the Phaeacians return to Scheria, angry that they have defied his will by so easily transporting his sworn enemy home. He complains to Zeus, demanding retribution. Zeus, after a brief council with the other gods, grants Poseidon permission to punish them, but advises against completely blocking their harbor. As the Phaeacian ship approaches its home port, just as the populace gathers to welcome it, Poseidon strikes. With a mighty blow of his trident, he turns the entire ship with all its crew into solid stone, rooting it to the bottom of the sea, just outside the harbor. It's a chilling, instantaneous transformation, a permanent monument to divine wrath, and a stark warning against aiding the cursed. Mainstream historical fact: Poseidon punishes the Phaeacians by turning their ship to stone, preventing them from aiding other mortals on similar journeys. A quirky tidbit: some interpretations suggest that Poseidon didn't just turn the ship to stone, but also effectively sealed off the Phaeacian harbor with a stony mountain, ending their seafaring ways entirely. Meanwhile, back in Ithaca, you stir from your deep sleep. You open your eyes, blinking in the morning light, but something is wrong. You look around at the familiar coastline, the olive trees, the rocky slopes, but you don't recognize it. Your mind, dulled by decades of absence and perhaps by Athena's magical mist, fails to grasp the truth. You feel a surge of despair. Have the Phaeacians tricked you? Have they abandoned you on some strange, unknown shore? You lament your fate, believing you have been cast away yet again, this time with all your precious gifts. It's a truly humbling moment, to be home, yet not know it. As you stand there, bewildered, a young man approaches you, seemingly a local shepherd, slender and graceful. This, of course, is Athena, disguised once more, eager to finally meet you face to face on your home soil. You cautiously question her, asking where you are, still convinced you're on some unfamiliar island. You even make up a quick, elaborate, and entirely fictional story about your origins and how you arrived there, a habit you've clearly picked up during your adventures. You're a master of deception, even when talking to a goddess. Athena smiles, amused by your cunning, but also pleased. Only a rogue or a cheat could surpass you in craft, she says, recognizing your legendary guile. Then, her form shifting, she reveals herself in her true, divine glory, tall, beautiful, and awe-inspiring. "You are in Ithaca, Odysseus," she declares, her voice ringing with triumphant joy. "This is your home." The mist that had clouded your vision, both literal and metaphorical, lifts. You finally see it, the familiar contours of your beloved island, the land you have yearned for, bled for 20 long years. The recognition floods your senses, a wave of profound relief, joy, and overwhelming gratitude. You fall to your knees, weeping, thanking Athena, finally understanding that your long ordeal is truly nearing its end. She helps you hide your treasure in a nearby cave, ensuring its safety. Then, she lays out the grim reality of your home. Your palace overrun by arrogant suitors, consuming your wealth, harassing your faithful wife, Penelope, and plotting to kill your son, Telemachus. But she also reveals her plan, a cunning strategy to reclaim your kingdom. "You must not reveal yourself," Athena instructs, her voice firm. You must go disguised, unnoticed, to test the loyalty of those around you. And with a touch of her wand, your transformation begins. Your youthful strength and kingly bearing vanish. Your skin wrinkles, your hair thins and turns gray, your eyes grow dim. You are suddenly an old, wizened beggar, clad in rags, carrying a gnarled staff. It's a shocking transformation, a complete erasure of your identity, but a necessary one. Mainstream historical fact. Athena disguises Odysseus as an old beggar upon his return to Ithaca to facilitate his unnoticed entry into his own home. Scholars continue to debate if Odysseus's initial failure to recognize Ithaca is due solely to Athena's mist, or also a psychological effect of his long, traumatic absence. Your first step, Athena tells you, is to seek out your loyal swineherd, Eumaeus, who remains devoted to your memory and your house. He is the first person you will truly test, the first piece in your grand strategy of reclaiming what is rightfully yours. With Athena's guidance and cloaked in your new, humble disguise, you, the once mighty Odysseus, king of Ithaca, set off down the familiar paths of your homeland, a stranger in your own land, ready to begin the final, most dangerous battle for your throne and your family. Your return has been quiet, unnoticed by all but a goddess, but the storm of your vengeance is about to break. Cloaked in the rags of an old beggar, your once imposing form now stooped and frail, you walk the familiar paths of Ithaca, a stranger in your own land. The salt spray of the sea has been replaced by the scent of dry earth and olive groves, a comforting aroma that stirs deep memories. Your first destination, as Athena instructed, is the isolated hut of Eumaeus, your loyal swineherd, a man whose faithfulness you pray has not wavered during your 20-year absence. This is the beginning of your grand test, the first step in reclaiming your home not with force, but with a quiet, hidden probe into the hearts of your people. You approach the swineherd's hut, a rustic but well-kept dwelling, surrounded by the pens of your pigs. The dogs, fierce and watchful, bark wildly at your approach. But Eumaeus, hearing the commotion, rushes out, scolding his hounds. He is an older man now, weathered by time and sorrow, but his eyes still hold a spark of integrity. He does not recognize you, of course. To him, you are just another unfortunate beggar, another vagrant washed up on the shores of Ithaca. Yet, despite your appearance, he welcomes you with an innate, humble hospitality, offering you food, warmth, and shelter. Stranger, he says, it is not right to turn away any guest, for all beggars and strangers are sent by Zeus. This simple act of kindness, born of loyalty to the absent master he believes still lives, warms your heart more than any royal feast. It's a truly heartwarming encounter, like finding a perfectly decent human being after navigating a sea of monsters. You sit by his fire, sharing his simple meal of roasted pork and wine, and begin to subtly test him. You listen as Eumaeus laments your absence, speaking of my king, lamenting the ruin of your household, the insolence of the suitors who devour your wealth and plot against your son. He recounts how he has been forced to guard your swine, seeing to their health and numbers, but constantly mourning the loss of his beloved master. You, as the beggar, feed him false news of Odysseus's return, weaving elaborate tales of travels and prophecies, always hinting that Odysseus is alive and will soon be home. Eumaeus, though hopeful, is skeptical, having heard too many such tales from desperate vagrants and false prophets seeking reward. No old man will persuade me, he says, or win my heart by telling me a tale of Odysseus. His caution, while frustrating, only proves his unwavering loyalty, his refusal to be fooled by idle speculation. Meanwhile, unknown to either of you, a ship silently glides into Ithaca's harbor. It carries your son, Telemachus, returning from his journey to Pylos and Sparta, where he sought news of your fate. Athena, ever present and guiding, had urged him home, knowing the time was ripe for your reunion. She had also advised him to bypass the palace and go directly to Eumaeus' hut, a safe haven from the suitor's ambush. Mainstream historical fact: Odysseus first reunites with his loyal swineherd Eumaeus, who remains faithful to his memory. The next morning, Telemachus arrives at the hut. Eumaeus greets him with overwhelming joy, embracing him like a long-lost son, tears streaming down his face. You, still disguised as the beggar, observe their heartfelt reunion, feeling a profound ache in your own heart. Telemachus is a young man now, growing into the strong leader you always hoped he would be. You watch as they share their news. Telemachus recounting his journey, Eumaeus detailing the palace's grim situation. It's a bittersweet scene for you, a silent witness to a family you desperately want to rejoin. Then, Athena, standing outside the hut, invisible to all but you, gives you a subtle nod, a silent signal. The time has come. You step outside, and with another touch of her wand, your disguise falls away. Your wrinkles smooth, your hair darkens and thickens, your stoop straightens, and your kingly presence returns. You reappear before Telemachus, no longer a beggar, but your true self. Telemachus, startled, believes you are a god, perhaps even one of the Olympians, come to trick him. "You are no beggar," he exclaims. "You are a god." "No, Telemachus," you say, your voice filled with emotion. "I am your father, the man for whom you have grieved all these years." Telemachus is stunned, unable to believe it. He questions you, asks for proof. You explain Athena's aid, the magic of the gods. And then, finally, the embrace. Father and son, reunited after 20 years, weep in each other's arms. Long, racking sobs of joy and relief. It's a profoundly emotional moment, the very core of your homecoming. A quirky tidbit. The initial disbelief of Telemachus is a recurring theme in the Odyssey, as characters struggle to accept that the long-lost king has truly returned. The three of you, Telemachus, and Eumaeus, who, once told by Telemachus, joyfully accepts your return, spend the rest of the day planning. You reveal your full story, the prophecy of Tiresias, the need for secrecy and cunning. You lay out the strategy. Telemachus will return to the palace, keeping your arrival a secret. You will follow, still in disguise as a beggar, to assess the suitors, to gauge the loyalty of your household servants, and to prepare for the inevitable confrontation. You instruct Telemachus to remove all weapons from the Great Hall, leaving only a few for yourselves. It's like setting up the ultimate surprise party, where the surprise is a major, violent overthrow. The next morning, Eumaeus sets off for the city, followed shortly by you, still in your beggar's rags, leaning on a staff. As you approach your own palace, you encounter a truly heartbreaking sight. Lying on a dung heap outside the gates, old and neglected, is your beloved dog, Argos. He is weak, covered in fleas, but despite your disguise, despite 20 years of your absence, he recognizes you. He lifts his head, wags his tail feebly, and whines, a low sound of immense joy. You cannot openly acknowledge him, lest you reveal your identity. You shed a silent tear, touched by his unwavering loyalty. Mainstream historical fact. The scene with Argos is famous for its pathos and as a symbol of loyalty. Argos, having waited so long, having seen his master's return, draws his last breath and dies. It's a quiet, profound moment of recognition and loss. Scholars continue to debate if Argos's death symbolizes the decaying state of Ithaca in Odysseus's absence, only to be redeemed by his return, or if it represents the purity of animal loyalty, untouched by human corruption. You walk on, carrying the weight of Argos's loyal heart, steeling yourself for the greater tests of loyalty and treachery that await you within your own home. The time for hiding is almost over, but first, you must endure the insults of those who have usurped your life. You step into the grand hall of your own palace, a place once filled with order and the laughter of your family, now a chaotic mess. The air is thick with the smell of roasting meat and stale wine, filled with the loud, boisterous chatter of the suitors, over 100 arrogant young men, feasting on your wealth, disrespecting your household, and openly plotting against your son. You are still in your beggar's rags, leaning on a gnarled staff, your true identity hidden beneath Athena's magic. It's an unnerving experience, to walk through your home as a ghost, observing the parasites who have taken root. It's like returning from a long trip to find a particularly rowdy frat party has taken over your house, and they're eating all your expensive cheese. The suitors, as expected, treat you with contempt. Antinous, the most arrogant and cruel of them, is particularly abusive, mocking your appearance and refusing to offer you so much as a crust of bread. He even throws a footstool at you, striking your shoulder, a blatant act of disrespect not just for a beggar, but for the sacred laws of hospitality. You endure it silently, your heart burning with suppressed rage, remembering Athena's words, "Endure." Other suitors, like Eurymachus, also mock and insult you. Only a few, like Amphinomus, show any fleeting shred of decency. You observe their true characters, categorizing them in your mind. Who is merely foolish and who is truly wicked? Penelope, your faithful wife, hears of the beggar's mistreatment and expresses her displeasure through her loyal servants. She maintains her dignity, managing her household as best she can under siege, a testament to her steadfast character. She even sends word that she wishes to speak with the beggar, intrigued by the tales of your possible return that you've been subtly spreading. As the day wears on, another beggar, Iros, a regular fixture in Ithaca, appears and tries to drive you from the palace. He resents your intrusion on his turf, challenging you to a boxing match. The suitors, finding this immensely amusing, egg you on, promising the winner a feast of goat tripe and permission to beg at the palace unchallenged. You, still in disguise, reluctantly agree. You bind your rags, revealing a glimpse of your powerful, muscular thighs, a hint of the strength that still lies beneath the disguise. When Iros throws the first punch, you deliver a single, devastating blow, shattering his jaw. He collapses, spitting blood, barely conscious. The suitors roar with laughter, finding this spectacle even more entertaining, completely oblivious that they've just witnessed the power of their king. It's a quick, decisive victory, like watching a world champion boxer playfully flatten an amateur. Mainstream historical fact: Odysseus, disguised as a beggar, defeats the rude beggar Iros in a boxing match in his own palace. Later, you encounter Melanthius, the disloyal goatherd, who insults you viciously, even kicking you as you walk past. You also note the unfaithful maidservants, particularly Melantho, who openly scorn you. This serves to harden your resolve. The cleansing of your house will be thorough. You even offer a cautious warning to Amphinomus, the kinder suitor, subtly advising him to leave before destruction comes. He considers your words, but fate, it seems, has other plans for him. That evening, Penelope, spurred by Athena, makes a rare public appearance before the suitors. She is beautiful, her grief having only deepened her allure. She admonishes them for their disrespectful behavior, not for your sake, but for the general lack of propriety. She cleverly extracts gifts from them, tricking them into believing she might finally choose one of them, thereby enriching your household even as they consume it. It's a brilliant move, showing her enduring wit and cunning. Scholars continue to debate if Penelope truly recognized Odysseus at any point during his disguise, or if her actions were merely coincidental. Late that night, as part of your ongoing plan, Penelope asks her old nurse, Euryclea, to wash the beggar's feet. Euryclea, who has known you since you were a child, prepares the foot bath. As she begins to wash your feet, her hands brush over a distinctive scar on your thigh, a mark from a boar hunt in your youth, a deep wound inflicted during a hunting trip on Mount Parnassus. Her hand trembles, her eyes widen in recognition. The old nurse gasps, her joy and shock almost overwhelming her. "Odysseus!" she whispers, her voice choked with emotion. Mainstream historical fact: Euryclea, Odysseus's old nurse, recognizes him by a hunting scar while washing his feet. You quickly silence her, your hand clamping over her mouth, your voice a fierce whisper. "Silence, old woman. Do not betray me. If you speak, I will not spare you when the time comes to kill these men." Euryclea, though shaken, understands the gravity of the situation and promises to keep your secret. Her absolute loyalty brings a fresh wave of relief and hope to your weary soul. The secret of your return is now known by only a few, Athena, Telemachus, Eumaeus, and now Euryclea. The circle of trust is small, but powerful. The very next day, Penelope makes her fateful announcement. Exhausted by the suitors' relentless pressure, and perhaps guided by divine inspiration, she declares a contest. She will marry the man who can string Odysseus's great bow and shoot an arrow cleanly through the holes of 12 axe heads lined up in a row. This is your bow, a massive, powerful weapon that only you, with your immense strength and skill, have ever been able to string. It's an impossible challenge, designed to deter the suitors and buy her more time. It's also the perfect trap. The suitors, arrogant and confident in their strength, eagerly agree. One by one, they try to string the mighty bow. They strain, they sweat, they curse, but not one of them can even bend the weapon, let alone string it. They rub the bow with tallow, they heat it, they try every trick, but the bow remains stiff and unyielding. The tension in the hall builds, a palpable mix of frustration, disbelief, and growing unease. You watch, still in your beggar's disguise, a silent, knowing smile playing on your lips. The stage is set. The final act of your homecoming is about to begin. The suitors, unknowingly, are preparing for their last supper. The great hall is a cacophony of frustration and curses. The suitors, one by one, have failed miserably to string your legendary bow. They strain, they sweat, their faces red with effort and humiliation. But the bow, crafted by divine hands and meant only for you, remains stubbornly unyielding. The mood shifts from arrogant confidence to frustrated despair. You, still in your beggar's rags, watch them from the sidelines, a silent, knowing smile playing on your lips. This is it. This is your moment. You approach the struggling suitors, humbly asking for a chance to try the bow. A fresh wave of derision erupts. "Who is this old beggar?" they sneer. "Does he think he can string the bow when we, strong young men, cannot?" Antinous, ever the cruelest, threatens to send you away. But Telemachus, your courageous son, intervenes, asserting his authority. "Silence," he commands. "This is my house, and I choose who tries the bow. Give the stranger the bow." Eumaeus and Philoetius, the loyal cowherd, quickly secure the doors, locking the suitors within the hall, a prearranged signal. The tension in the room is palpable, a thick, uneasy quiet. It's like the moment before a truly epic mic drop. You take your bow in hand. You examine it, checking its condition, as if you've never seen it before. You test its weight, its balance. Then, with a practiced ease that belies your ragged disguise, you fit the string into its notch. The bow sings, a clear, resonant note, like the call of a swallow, a sound that fills the hall, chilling the suitors to their bones. A sound they haven't heard in 20 years. They stare in stunned, terrified silence. You then calmly knock an arrow, draw the string back to your ear, and let fly. The arrow speeds true, whistling cleanly through the holes of all 12 axe heads, striking the wall beyond with a soft thud. Perfect shot. You turn to Telemachus, your eyes blazing with triumph. The hour has come. You declare, casting off your rags and revealing your true form, majestic and terrible in your battle armor. The suitors gasp, their faces paling, their arrogance crumbling into sheer terror. They try to scatter, to find weapons, but it's too late. Your first arrow, aimed with deadly precision, strikes Antinous square in the throat as he lifts a cup of wine to his lips. He falls, choking on his own blood, the cup clattering to the floor. The hall erupts into chaos. It's like the calm before a storm giving way to a sudden, devastating hurricane. The battle is swift and brutal. You, Telemachus, Eumaeus, and Philoetius, guided by Athena, stand against the screaming, panicking suitors. Arrows fly from your bow, each one finding its mark. When your arrows run out, you switch to spears and swords. Athena, often invisible, finally reveals herself as her shield. The Aegis appears above you, shimmering, terrifying the remaining suitors and filling your allies with divine courage. The air is filled with the sounds of battle, clashing bronze, cries of pain, the thud of falling bodies. The suitors, accustomed to soft living, are no match for your seasoned warrior's skill and the divine protection you command. Mainstream historical fact: Odysseus, with Telemachus and loyal servants, slaughters all the suitors in his hall. No mercy is shown. You are a king reclaiming his throne, a father avenging his family's honor, a warrior exacting justice for 2 decades of suffering. Not only the suitors, but also the disloyal maidservants who consorted with them, are summarily punished, hanged for their treachery. Melanthius, the disloyal goatherd, suffers a particularly gruesome fate. The hall, once a symbol of your family's prosperity, becomes a scene of carnage, a necessary cleansing. It's a bloody, terrifying scene, but from your perspective, it's a long overdue house cleaning. Once the slaughter is complete, the hall is thoroughly cleansed, purified with sulfur and fire. You send for Penelope. The loyal Euryclea rushes to her mistress, filled with joyful news. But Penelope, cautious after so many years of false hopes and cunning tricks, remains skeptical. She believes Euryclea has lost her mind, or that a god has killed the suitors. She comes down to the hall, sees you, but still cannot bring herself to believe it. Her years of grief and unwavering loyalty have made her wary. You recognize her skepticism, respecting it. She tests you, ordering Euryclea to move your bed, the great marriage bed you fashioned from the living trunk of an olive tree, rooted deep into the earth, unable to be moved. You react instantly, describing in detail how you built it, how its immovable nature is its unique secret. This is the proof. This is the one secret only you and Penelope share. Her face softens, tears welling in her eyes as she finally, truly recognizes you. It's the ultimate secret password, known only to the two of you. The reunion between you and Penelope is profoundly emotional. A tender embrace after 20 years of separation, doubt, and longing. You weep in each other's arms, the weight of years and suffering finally lifting. You recount your story to her, all the trials and tribulations, confirming the prophecy of Tiresias. Mainstream historical fact: Penelope tests Odysseus by asking to move their immovable marriage bed, the secret of which only he knows, proving his identity. Scholars continue to debate if Penelope truly believed Odysseus was dead or had some intuition of his eventual return. Your next task is a visit to your aging father, Laertes, who lives in rustic despair, grieving your absence and his wife's death. You approach him, disguised once more, testing his loyalty, witnessing his profound sorrow. You reveal yourself to him, and he, too, is overcome with joy, tears mixing with the dust of his vineyard. His strength, long diminished by grief, seems to return as he embraces his long-lost son. The final challenge comes swiftly. The families of the dead suitors, enraged by the slaughter, gather an army, seeking vengeance. A brief, fierce battle ensues. Laertes, in a surprising display of renewed vigor, even kills Antinous' father. But before further bloodshed can occur, Athena intervenes. She appears in her true form, commanding both sides to cease fighting, to make peace, to forget the past and restore order to Ithaca. Zeus sends a thunderbolt as a sign of divine assent. A pact is sworn, peace is finally established, and the long, bloody cycle of violence is broken. And so, peace is restored to Ithaca. You are back on your throne, with your devoted wife, your brave son, and your loyal servants. The journey has ended, the kingdom is safe, and order reigns once more. You have returned from the edge of the known world, endured unimaginable suffering, faced gods and monsters, and cleansed your home of corruption. Your journey, however, is not quite complete. Tiresias' prophecy still looms, the final journey inland, with an oar on your shoulder, until you find a people who do not know the sea, where you will plant the oar and make offerings to Poseidon. Only then, the prophet foretold, would a gentle, peaceful death finally claim you in your old age. Your epic adventures have ended, but your peaceful twilight has only just begun. This is the true end of your Odyssey, a journey from glorious warrior to wise king, a testament to resilience, cunning, and the enduring power of home.